morning. I'm Leslie Smith with McCormick LA Public Relations, and I'm here today with Dan Lipton, who is the owner of Beach Cities Media and the publisher of TRAVELHOST Beach Cities. Thank you, Dan, for being here today.
Oh, sure. Great to see you, Leslie. And
likewise.
Thank you. So my background, just so you know, I'm originally an East Coaster who came to California, decades and decades ago. Went to school out here and settled. Primarily a hospitality background, a degree from the Collins College of Hospitality Management at Cal Poly, and but primarily a business and sales career, but with an emphasis in the tourism industry. I used to design awards travel for Fortune 500 companies like President's Club trips and things like that. And then it had an opportunity coming out of the downturn in the economy in 2012, as we were just coming out of it, to be a publisher for TRAVELHOST magazine and have my own region. TRAVELHOST is a national brand with many people, especially who travel, familiar with the hotel publication that they're famous for. And there was a local region here in the greater Long Beach area that was open, and they asked, because of my background, if I would be interested in being an entrepreneur. And so I thought the timing was perfect, and here we are 10 years later, and I just love what I do, and I'm real excited to be able to share the best of tourism with locals and tourists who come to our area.
Very good. Yes. And, I see your magazine in so many different places, and I'll pick it up either at a chamber networking meeting that we attend together or at a restaurant. I'll see it and I'll just pick it up. And it's so great to flip through, and I see new restaurants all the time, or, and then you have a nice calendar in there that tells me, things that are coming up, which is awesome. And I think when people think travel, they think hotels, airlines, whatever. So what is, tell us what the balance of your magazine is as far as your advertisers.
Sure. Thanks for asking. So it's different than a lot of other travel magazines in the sense that it's hyper local. Okay. So we don't actually have an interest in, national advertising or outside of our region or chains even. We really want to promote the best of what locals get to experience and present that to the business and leisure traveler who are staying in local hotels.
Makes sense.
So our advertisers are restaurants, as you mentioned, local shopping, attractions. Now, attractions could be a little bit out of the area, and what I mean by that is a couple-hour drive. Okay, because tourists don't look at driving and attractions the way locals do. Locals are much more siloed and less likely, because of traffic patterns and so forth, go outside their area, except when relative to or something. Travelers are much more adventurous, and they're willing to drive 15-20 minutes to eat, or even a couple hours for an attraction if they're going to spend all day there. So between golf and shopping and dining and different kinds of attractions, museums, etc., we're able to give the traveler a real taste of a local feel. So I go out and meet and experience these local businesses. So I vet everything in the magazine, and if I feel that it's worthy of travelers seeing it, then I want to ask the owner, could we talk about how we can promote them and bring them, more business, because it's very difficult to reach the traveler. They don't really look at local marketing, so to speak. But they're typically unfamiliar with the landscape geographically and what it has to offer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of people think that, just pick up your phone and search for something, but that old saying, I don't know what I don't know. And so
Right.
whatever you put in, what's going to come up on that little 3-inch screen is what the person who paid the highest amount of SEO,
Sure.
right?
Or right. Or
Not
sometimes
the,
they look at, a traveler might look at the geography and the address of some place. They go, oh, that must be near the beach, but they've chosen a place that's not in a great neighborhood. You're like, oh, you should have called us. Kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. So, right. So I have to be very sensitive yet respectful of the fact that we're a very diverse community in the greater Long Beach area.
Uh-huh.
And I do want to represent the entire city. And by the way, we have, for those who are watching this locally, Seal Beach to the south, up to LAX to the north along the
Okay.
coast.
I was
Why
going to
we
ask your
call
borders, so that's good to know.
why,
Okay.
why we call it the beach cities.
Okay.
So the maps in the magazine are probably what is the most popular part of the magazine for the hoteliers, because guests are always asking, do you have a local map? Okay, so
Right.
in our magazine, we have those local maps. We have a greater Long Beach map and a downtown Long Beach map because it's highly concentrated, and then a South Bay map. And so that, and because it's 5.5 by 8.5, you can put it in your pocket or your purse,
Mhm.
and
Very portable.
folks take it with them. And we plot every hotel and every advertiser on the map so they can actually see, oh, wow, it's really not that far away.
Yes. And you know what you said about that you go and vet the restaurant. I think that's fantastic. And most travel magazine, I won't name them, but they don't do that. And that's when we've been in places, my husband will go to the hotel manager and go, but where do you eat? Right. I want to know, where do the locals go? So
Sure.
you've already put it in your magazine. This is where the locals go. This is the
Right.
favorite eateries. That's awesome. That's really
Now,
great.
I can dive into a little bit more detail about that. But sometimes, believe it or not, so Long Beach, when people who travel a lot go around the country, there are some cities where you'll see a lot of concierge.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sure.
And especially, more high-end properties have concierge. Long Beach, believe it or not, may have one hotel with a concierge.
That's
Okay,
it?
that's
Really?
it. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I distribute to 90 hotels. I can think off the top of my head one hotel that has a concierge. And
Wow.
part of it is because it's not that it's not valued, it's because wages
Mm,
have forced hotel general managers and companies to make tough decisions about staffing.
sure.
And believe it or not, several years ago, there were some changes in how hotel uh, folks were paid, and all of a sudden the concierge went away. We describe our magazine as an in-room concierge. So
Nice. I like it.
in lieu of someone being able to talk to you about where to go, we try to have a broad spectrum of the best places to dine, shop, play, and stay. That's how we describe, our publication.
Great.
Um, the when you ask someone in the hotel, like, where do you go? Sounds like a very fair question. Let me just say to you, though, that some local establishments actually spiff.
Oh,
Um,
sure. They give them a little incentive for saying them. Yes, but this was in particular, this was in Bishop on the way to Mammoth. And we were staying there. Well, actually, we're a bigger trip, but the outside of Mammoth. And we asked the Hampton Inn guy, where do you go? He goes, oh, we go to the bowling alley. And, there's one restaurant, the Creekside Inn or whatever, everybody goes there. We're like, oh, okay, we know what to expect there. And so we went to the bowling alley and they had amazing food. They had, beautiful tuna, seared tuna, and it was a great meal. Like, who knew? So now we always go to the bowling alley and tell everybody, you gotta go to the bowling alley. And
for sure.
it's set way back in the parking lot. So there's another business in front. You have to know to look for it. But there's a truck out front with a giant bowling pin on it. They have a really good restaurant, which I hope it survived COVID. I'm not sure. But do you have an example of like an advertiser who's just loves the results that they get from you time and time again?
I do, and actually, I'm proud to say they were my very first advertiser when I started the magazine in 2012.
Wow.
So here we are. Get this, okay? We're at the end of October 2022. On October 1st, 2012, after I had gotten all my distribution, so I had my story to tell potential advertisers how many rooms we were going to be in, right? How many hotels we were going to be in, which, by the way, at that time was only about 60% of the number of hotels we're in now.
Okay.
I went out to find my, advertising base, and my very first successful meeting was with a company that had never advertised in the way that they do with me, and it's Gondola Getaway.
Oh, perfect.
So for those of you who are not aware, Gondola
Yes.
Getaway is probably, at least in California, the largest outfit of gondolas outside of Venice that provide incredible experiences on the waters in and around Naples Island, which are very calm, and it's a wonderful, wonderful time. Obviously, I've done it many times.
That's
And
great.
then, so Michael O'Toole,
Mhm.
who is this year celebrating his 40th anniversary as owner of
Wow.
Gondola Getaway. It was a college project for him at USC. He turned it into a business.
Mhm.
Michael had always just relied on word of mouth. And when I came calling and told him what I was doing, he said, I love the idea. I'm just, not sure if it'll work, but let's try it. Well, subsequent to putting in his ad, he started to get calls from travelers. Now, understand, a local often, except for maybe their anniversary or something, has flexibility of when they can come in and schedule their ride in the gondola.
Sure.
A traveler who's here for a business conference, pre or post cruise, whatever the reason is, has perhaps a half a day or right just a small opening of time in order to experience something like this. And so he had to change how he scheduled gondoliers and find gondoliers who were available at almost a moment's notice
Sure.
for someone that said, you know what, I really want to do this, but my only, window is 3 to 5 p.m. today, right? And so he had to literally change how he
Wow.
schedules his people in order to accommodate the business that he gets from his ad, and he remains a client partner with me for the full 10 years that I've been in business.
That's fantastic. That's a great story, and good for them. Good for Gondola Getaway. It's awesome. So the other thing that I want to talk to you about, because I specialize in PR and do a ton of community relations, and you are out in the community and you are an avid volunteer and you do great things in the community. Why don't you tell us sort of the list of the things that you're involved with now?
Okay, sure. So, the networking and philanthropy were not new to me, but this was my first entrepreneurial effort, especially in and around the city of Long Beach, which I lived in for 25 years when this opportunity came up. So I felt like I needed to really dig in, and if I was going to have any success in the business, I needed to be seen and be seen repeatedly, for people to take me, seriously. So right off the bat, I joined the Long Beach Convention and Visitors Bureau. This is even before my first issue came out. My first issue came out in early Q1 of 2013. Okay, I was building up the content starting right in as early as August of 2012 to have an issue come out in early 2013.
Okay.
So in beginning of perhaps Q2 4 of 2012, I joined the Long Beach Convention Visitors Bureau, which is really the hospitality, organization.
Networking hub. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, hoteliers, restaurants, attractions,
Mhm.
etc., and everyone that serves them.
Mhm.
I joined the Long Beach Chamber of Commerce at that time. I joined probably 5 other Chamber of Commerces of the
Oh,
communities
sure.
that I served. Um, I also joined the Travel and Tourism Marketing Association, which
Oh,
is more of
smart.
an, which is more of an LA-based organization of people across the spectrum of tourism, from Santa Barbara County down to San Diego County, and we meet monthly, and I'm on the board of that organization now. Um, and during the year that I officially started the magazine in 2012, 2013, was also the grand opening of Long Beach Ronald McDonald House.
Okay.
And so I think a tour from the chamber of their new house. And I
Uh-huh.
got to meet Executive Director Sherry Basley and her staff, got to see what they do, and really kind of fell in love. And again, this is before my first issue even came out.
Wow.
So I planned a premiere issue party at my very first restaurant advertisers location, which for those of you who are local, L'Opera restaurant
Okay.
down on
Uh-huh.
Pine and First
Uh-huh.
was where I planned in February of 2013 my premiere issue party,
Smart.
and I invited the Ronald McDonald House to have like a table at the event so that they could just have a presence and other people could learn a little bit about what they do.
Nice.
And what I found by accident, Leslie, was that once I got the attention off of me, that once I realized that this premiere issue party, which was a nice thing to do and invite, important people in my life and
Mhm.
clients, etc., and friends
Mhm.
to show off this new thing, that maybe it isn't about me, and maybe uh, myself with a worthwhile charity might draw actually a better response than the focus being on me. Okay, but
Nice.
that was just the first year. Subsequently, after that, and the light bulb went on, they became the focus of my annual event. So
Yes.
my anniversary events kept getting bigger and more, you know, uh, organized, and they became like, instead of TRAVELHOST Magazine premiere issue party, it became TRAVELHOST Magazine sponsors a fundraiser for the Long Beach Ronald McDonald House.
Which is an amazing event. And it's a golf tournament plus an award ceremony at the dinner, correct? You
So,
award a
so
couple community
right.
heroes. Yeah.
For the first, it morphed, Leslie. So for the first, 5 years, we had it at Labra, we had it across the street, the Federal Bar. Then we moved to the Hotel Maya, where we
Okay.
did it outdoor. It's like cocktail reception, silent auction.
Mhm.
Okay, and we had, I would say, reasonable amount of success in terms of fundraising. Meaning, I'll just say, my frustration with it is, as much as I loved it, and they loved the fact that I was doing this for them, that I felt like it was a lot of work, but not necessarily generating as much revenue as I would have liked for them.
Sure.
Um, then the pandemic came, and we had to stop for 2 years. We resumed no longer as a cocktail reception, we morphed to a golf tournament. And we had been, as you mentioned, honoring what we call 5 icons of the community, which were people that our committee agreed upon made a difference in the greater Long Beach area. And we would present them with a ceremonial award and talk about them a little bit. Again, as a way to draw more people to the event,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Smart.
So, but when we switched to the golf tournament, I just want to say that we quadrupled the net
Oh,
revenue to the house, the Long Beach
nice.
Ronald McDonald House. So we'll be doing another golf tournament at the end of June 2023, our second golf tournament. And so this just continues as a, philanthropic event that I love to just, host and, help supplement the much needed funds that they need to operate on an annual basis.
Very good. And you mentioned the committee are those volunteers through Ronald McDonald House, or do you put together a volunteer committee of your travel host advertisers or friends?
Yeah. So the committee does involve and will continue to involve at least one or two representatives from the House, because
Okay.
we need to coordinate with their schedules. They participate to a certain degree in the fundraiser anyway, so we need to be very, very sensitive about how much work that they're actually going to do and when. But the rest of the people that I bring in are either people who have helped put on fundraisers before, or as you mentioned, people who know me and also have a heart for philanthropy and donating their time. And we have a great time. We have a great time doing.
That's great. Okay, so this is what I suggest to people. Look, you need to host something, or you need to, and they're like, it sounds like a lot of time. I'm like, well, yeah, it is, but the payoff is great. And you're, getting your name out there and doing something good for the community and really making an impact. How much can you give a ballpark of how much time you'd spend putting a golf tournament and a dinner together?
It's not as much as you might think, because you can't, the only thing you can do really super in advance of those things is reserve the date.
Right. In the space, right? The golf
Right.
course.
You can't communicate to people too soon on these things because it's out of sight, out of mind. Maybe you can do a save the date or something like that. So you need, once you get to about 3 months out, then the work, starts to pick up, and you spend, a couple hours a week.
Okay. That's not bad. That's
First
reasonable.
First time through will be a little bit more, challenging.
Sure.
That's why it's always helpful if somebody wants to start an event to talk to someone who's done it already, so they can kind of get some groundwork as to, what they, might do. And that's really where all this networking, by the way, comes in, because
Sure.
now I know more people to reach out to for help or support. I'm also on the board of the Long Beach Chamber of Commerce. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. And so I get to present this golf tournament to leaders of, I'm the smallest company on the board. Okay. Long Beach Chamber Board is made up of some really big organizations that have a lot of employees and a lot more revenue. And so, but I can lean on them to participate with my donations, sponsorships, etc. That helps, round out my event and make it more likely to succeed. And so that's, why one of the reasons why one would network, not just for, selfish reasons, right? For, I'm looking to get new business. It's, how can we work together to, improve our community?
Sure.
And I think people are frankly, more receptive to that. And then through relationships, perhaps we can do some work together. That's become a secondary goal of mine.
Right. Right.
I think people want to connect with other people first before they do business with them. So
and you're also very active in Rotary. I know that.
Yeah, I got introduced to Rotary over 4 years ago. One of my clients and a former president of the Chamber of Commerce introduced me and sponsored me. And, really, really glad that I did. I've been able to sit on a couple of boards of that and really, get to know all those people and be of service to all the great work that the Rotary Club of Long Beach, which is a very, very large club, gets involved in. And so, there comes I have a long professional career. There comes a point, I think, in a lot of people's lives, and I just want to encourage people to do it perhaps sooner than later, that there's a lot more satisfaction that comes out of your career when a portion of it is devoted to service and not just sell.
Very good. And it's that you have that like, no trust building through that. So people get to like you and get to know you better and they trust you, and all of the things that you're involved in speak to that and speak to you being one of the few good men in our community, as Ronald McDonald House is honoring you, in fact, this week. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? It's quite an honor. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'll tell you more about the event really first. So
Okay.
this is the 8th year that the Long Beach Ronald McDonald House puts on their big event of the year. So my little golf tournament that I put on for them, generates maybe 10% of what they're going to generate this month on this event that they call A Few Good Men. So again, 8th annual. They choose 11 men. I don't know why it's 11, but it's only men. So maybe they'll morph to honor women who are equally deserving of the honor. But it's like a fashion show, with a walk and the whole thing. And you can wear anything from a tuxedo, which is what I'm going to wear. And some of the people who either have really interesting backgrounds or their jobs, like people in the past who were like the fire chief, he wore his fire chief outfit when he came out, etc. So you can have fun with that. It's to music. So it's a silent auction and live auction event, black tie, 1,000 people attending. And so I'm going to be walking down the catwalk in my tuxedo, hopefully not making a fool of myself.
Oh, you'll do great.
But they'll raise close to $1 million in that evening.
That's fantastic.
So
fantastic.
It's a super great event. It's a tremendous honor. I was, flabbergasted. I had volunteered to support that event before. I was flabbergasted to be called and invited to be one of the recipients. And, it's truly an honor, and I'm happy to do whatever I can to support the event.
Very good. And for those of you who are watching, if you don't know what Ronald McDonald House is, it raises money and houses families whose children are getting treatment. They're, have maybe a horrible disease that they're facing while they're at Miller Children's Hospital, and then they can stay there if they don't live nearby. And it's a wonderful place, and they'll feed them, and they have volunteer groups come in and make dinners. It's a wonderful way to volunteer. If you can't do anything else, you can come make a dinner. That's always a rewarding thing. And you see these families, and they've been at the hospital all day, and their visitor pass, and they're just bedraggled, and they're dealing with something horrific in their lives. And it's nice to give them, to nourish their soul just with a nice homemade meal that you've made in their kitchen.
Yeah. So yes, and to add upon that, Leslie, restaurants regularly donate meals to the house.
Nice. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, very good.
Because you take the number of days in the year and the number of meals per day, you got to keep these people fed because they're going back and forth to the hospital. And by the way, there are Long Beach Ronald McDonald Houses all over the country. Started over 40 years ago with the first location in Philadelphia. And, it's that, like, as you said, the refuge for these families who just need to put their head down and because sometimes the length of stay with some of these children, from infants up to, teenagers or whatever, who are facing life-threatening illnesses and diseases, they may be at that hospital for weeks and sometimes months.
Yeah, it's sad.
Families have often come from far away. It's not just like locals who live at home. These are people who either don't have the resources, or they've come even perhaps overseas to see a specialist for this. And with the Ronald McDonald House, if with Long Beach in particular, it's beautiful. It's like a small hotel. These people are treated with the utmost respect and care, and in a great environment. And I also want to say that some people think that because it's the Ronald McDonald House name attached to it, that Ronald McDonald funds these homes, and they only do that to a very small degree. So I believe the Ronald McDonald House in Long Beach, like all the other homes, may get $50,000 a year from Ronald McDonald Corporation, but it costs over $1 million a year to operate the house. And so that's why all these fundraising efforts that people put in terms of time and effort are needed so that the service and everything that they do can go on, day after day, year after.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so I knew this would happen. We just get started talking when time flies. But to close, I know that you are starting to work on a podcast. So why don't you share a little bit of that and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, so I had the good fortune early on in my publishing to meet a couple of producers from K Beach Radio, which is the Long Beach State radio station. And they saw what I did. We had a conversation and they said, this would be a perfect show on our radio station, like a weekly show to talk about best places to dine, shop, play, and stay in Long Beach for our students and our listeners. So, we developed I called it a taste of the beach. And every Thursday at 11 a.m., we would have an hour-long show on their station. And we would go out, let's say it was with a restaurant. We go out to the restaurant, we would, bring our equipment, laptop, microphones, talk to the owners, taste their food, talk about how great it was. And then that would get edited and aired every, Thursday at 11. Sometimes if it wasn't a restaurant, we'd go into the studio live on Thursdays at 11 and broadcast the show there. And then I took a hiatus after 3.5 years, pre-pandemic, and then got approached to bring it back as a podcast, which will kick off at the beginning of 2023. So excited to start that up again and help promote not just my clients, but just fun things to do in Southern California with the help of my friend Ken Bader, who also is a professional podcast host. And
cool.
We have a lot of fun together. So it'll be great.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Dan, for spending some time with me this morning. I appreciate it. You make a difference in this community, and thank you for all that you do. And you give your heart and soul to everything. I think there's 11 men because it represents 110%. What do you think?
Well, I like it, Leslie. I'm going to use that.
There we go. Okay. Thank you so much. Carry on.
Thanks, Leslie. Great to be with you.
Likewise.